It seems this war in the Middle
So
East
these are
is
three
blowing up, and
historical
it seems
examples
like even
that are
the
very
States
similar
war
to
on Iran,
what could happen in Iran.
It will probably happen in the next
does that
couple
make
days
sense, guys?
with the United States bombing Iran.
All right, any questions
So
before I continue?
it's very clear what the U.S. intention is, because we've seen what the United States has done to Iraq, Libya, and Syria.
All right.
They call
Is
it
this clear
regime
so far?
change,
All right.
but it's really the
Now let's use
destruction
another
of the society.
mode of analysis called
the
game
destruction
theory
of the
analysis.
capacity
Okay?
as a
And this is what I've been
people
teaching
to be a
you,
nation, to work collectively.
This
And the most clear example for it
semester.
is
And the idea
Iraq.
is that
in 2003,
society,
before the
what
Americans
happens in the
invaded,
real
it
world
was a
is
fairly
a game
well-functioning
among
society.
human beings.
Yeah, I mean there were sanctions and impoverished
Okay?
people.
So and each
but
person
overall, I mean it was
is
a fairly
trying
stable
to play this
society
game
in
as
the
to
Middle East.
optimize
The United States goes in,
the outcome
overthrows
for
Saddam
that
Hussein,
person.
and at that
Okay?
time,
So the question
you had
then
a lot of
is,
people who welcome
why
this
would the United
transition
States send
and this change. And they
100,000
believe
troops
that the Americans
into
were democracy,
Iraq?
which was a stated mission.
So let's look
and
at
it would lead to a more
the
prosperous
individual
Iraq.
motivations
But very soon
of the individual
afterwards,
players. Okay?
the Americans
So you have the United
called
States,
depacification, which is to
What
remove
does the United
anyone
States
from the
wanna
Ba'athist
do?
Party, from government, from the military, from the police.
What
The problem with this
does it want
is
to do?
these are the elite of society. You remove the elite from society
By doing
from
what?
the pillars of power, your society ceases
accomplishing
to
what?
function properly. And that's exactly what happened. It led to massive sectarian
It wants to
violence
topple
that
the
continues
regime
even today
in Tehran, right?
Iraq. So
You can only do that through
I can't
a ground
believe
invasion, okay?
that anyone's stupid
So
to
the
not
United
know the
States is
consequences
trying to
of this policy
topple
of
Iran.
depacification.
But then you also
and
have
so when the Americans say
other
regime
actors,
change in
okay?
the Middle East,
So,
think of Iraq 2003 and what happened
Iran.
afterwards.
What does Iran want to do?
So the question now is, how will the Americans move forward? Well,
What does
the
Iran wanna
American
do?
strategy in the Middle East, it's been in place for the past
basically the
20
Revolutionary
years.
Guard Corps.
And regime
What do they
change
wanna do?
requires three pillars. Okay, the first pillar is decapitation of the leadership. Just remove.
They want to
the
kill as
inherent
many
leadership,
Americans as possible. Okay, you understand?
Second,
they want to
is,
force an American
revolutionary
land invasion.
intent.
Okay?
You do that
So
through economic
Iran
sabotage,
wants
right? Through
to
sanctions,
force
by destroying the infrastructure
US
that allows
invasion, knowing
people
that
to live normal lives, which
if the
includes
US
water supply,
invades,
electricity.
it has to lose the
And
war.
the third
Okay, it
pillar
will
of the
lose the war.
strategy is to
Because
foment sectarian violence,
the Revolutionary Guard
to
can just
divide
send
and conquer the
suicide
people,
bombers
to take
against
advantage of the
the
fact
United
that
States,
within these societies there
Now, let's look
are
at Israel.
these minorities of people who
Okay, we know that the United
have
States wants to
traditionally
topple
been
Iran.
suppressed.
We know that
You
Iran
give them
wants to
promise of a
force
better
a
life.
US
So
invasion
in
to
Iraq,
defeat
2003, you got the Kurds, but you also
the
had
Americans,
the
to
Shiites,
humiliate the
the
Americans.
Iran, there are
and,
tons and tons of minorities
exact
who are
revenge
discontent with the way
for what
things
happened
are right now.
in the past,
So that's the
okay?
American
What does
strategy
Israel want to do?
moving
What is
forward. And
Israel's
if we want to clarify or simplify the
optimal
strategy,
outcome?
we can use
You guys know?
a metaphor, okay? Americans, to win wars in the Middle East, they use bombs, they use propaganda, and they use money.
You're Israel.
Okay?
What do you want to
Bombs
happen?
is basically you have these fighter jets going in to destroy any military opposition. Propaganda is CNN, BBC, New York Times to create the impression that this is being done
So you
in the name
want
of democracy
Iran defeated,
and
okay?
prosperity and peace.
And then what do you want to happen?
And then money in that you are
You want Iran
financing
defeated,
a lot
you
of
want the
opposition
Turks
groups.
defeated,
You're
and then
financing
what do you want
a
to
lot of
happen?
the internal dissent, which will overthrow the regime. So this strategy, bombs, propaganda, money,
Do you want the
is
United
all being
States to
implemented
stay
right now
in the Middle East?
in Iran. And in fact, you can make the argument that this has been going on secretly underground for many years now. Personally, I think the strategy won't work.
What happens if the United States?
First of all, bombs
What happens if the
don't
United
really
States and Iran
work
both lose the
with the
war?
geography of Iran.
I mean,
You know,
Iran is
it
destroyed as a
mountainous
country. The
terrain.
United States is destroyed as a military
it's
presence
a
in the
huge,
Middle
huge
East. What would
country.
happen?
It's 3 times the size of Iraq. So
Israel becomes the top dog in the
convinced
Middle East. You understand?
that airstrikes will do any real
Israel can now
lasting
control
damage
the entire Middle
to
East.
the infrastructure of Iran.
So the optimal
Propaganda,
outcome
New York
for
Times,
Israel
CNN,
is
BBC have absolutely no
Iran
credibility
and the United
today.
States
Not even among
both
Western
destroyed.
domestic audiences.
Okay?
They'll have even
understand?
less credibility.
How about
in
Saudi
Iran.
Arabia? What is their
And then you have
optimal outcome?
money, and I don't know how effective money will be.
Exactly the same
Because
as
at the end of the
that.
day,
Okay, you
what
understand?
differentiates Iran from, say, Libya, Syria, and Iraq
Which will
is
leave the Middle
people
East to
in
Saudi
Iran
Arabia and
consider
Israel.
consider
But
themselves
Israel is a
Persians.
far
In other words, they consider
superior
themselves
military
peers
than
to
Saudi
a
Arabia.
brilliant,
Okay?
creative
Remember, it's
civilization
very easy to blow
that's
up
been around
Saudi
for
Arabia.
5,000
They
years.
have oil fields. Okay?
And
not that easy to blow up
overstate enough
Israel.
So
Israel
how that
becomes
would
the top dog.
energize and motivate the
You
people
understand game
to
theory?
resist and
In other
to
words,
unite together.
all the major
Also, what's really
participants
important
want
is the
an
Iranians saw
invasion
exactly what happened to the Iraqis.
of
This
Iran.
once vibrant, harmonious,
Okay?
brilliant
But they
nation
want different outcomes.
was destroyed by American
And
by American sanctions. And
Saudi
American
Arabia and
airstrikes.
Israel most
so,
benefit if
I don't
this
think
situation
that
happens,
the Americans have a compelling case
where you have
to
100,000
make
U.S.
before
troops in the
Iranian
country
people.
and they can't get out. Okay?
So,
because it becomes
another
some
way of saying this
policy.
is that
The United States
even
can
though
only
it seems the
more
Americans
soldiers.
have the military advantage, they are
Does that make sense?
still the greatest military in human
All right.
history. The problem, though, is the Iranians have much more strategic flexibility.
So
what I
it's
mean by
clear to
that
you
is the Americans
okay?
to overthrow
You can
this
either
regime
use historical
need,
analysis to get to this
decapitate,
outcome, but you can also use game
the
theory
leadership.
to get to
they
this
need
outcome.
to create internal dissent, a revolution, and they need
Any
to
questions
rally
so far?
the religious minorities against the regime in Tehran. Okay? And that's really the main strategy moving
Wait,
forward,
okay.
and really
So,
the only.
Celine
Oh, this is my
asked
son, Chris, by
the
the way. And that's
most
the
pivotal
only
question, okay?
real path to victory for the Americans.
The United
Whereas
States
the Iranians
has
have
nuclear
much more
weapons,
strategic flexibility. Okay?
which is
so,
its ultimate trump card, right?
In other words, America and its
So
allies in the Middle East
what
have
Trump can
major
say to
strategic
Tehran is
vulnerabilities.
like,
For
I
example,
might
let's
have
take Saudi
found some
Arabia.
truth.